Hey guys, how's it going? Onus here, and a very warm welcome to a new video on our channel. We'll be driving again in the F1 2017 Ziggo Pro League, and if I'm not mistaken, this is round 8 or round 7. If I remember correctly, it is round 8, around Circuit de Gilles-Villeneuve, I should say, Canada. Dry conditions in quali, we've currently got a 110.1 on the board. However, look what happens on my outlap. Bam! There is the corner cut warning. And actually it meant the next lap was gonna be invalidated as well, which is weird because usually you get a warning or an invalidated lap time when you cut the final corner onto on the start of your new lap, but not on the outlap itself. But for some reason it did that here, which is alright. I did qualifying runs where you always did 2 laps, so you do 1 hot lap and then straight after the first hot lap you do the other hot lap. So we've got enough fuel for 2 laps. We know that 1 lap is already invalidated, which is, you know, a bit of a bummer, to be honest. After the first run, after the first qualifying run, we were, I think, in P3 with 110.1. Should be able to go much faster than that, so we'll see what we can do in this run. Then we should be able to improve. At least we need to improve because we've been bumped down to P7. So final run of the quali, first turn, third gear, take a lot of curb on the inside there, take a lot of speed in general through these first 2 turns. Then on the power and up through the gears. The first chicane on the track is coming up just before the 50 meter board. Flick down the gear, right, left, and then look at that, a little bit of a touch with the barrier on the exit there. End of the first sector, roughly 2 tenths up, and purple at the end of the first sector. So that's a good sign, a very good sign. Then up the gears once again, and another chicane here, 4th gear again. Take a lot of curb on the inside of the corner there, also on the left-hander there. But be careful around this track. You really need to be aware of the corner cuts. I think that's gonna be a big thing. Again, purple at the end of the second sector. I think a big thing around this track is the corner cuts. It's very easy to cut corners here, and the track here, the game is quite strict on that around this track. So the air is wide open. Then 1 more chicane to go, and this chicane is vital for your lap time. If you nail this chicane, you can gain so much time. But I take a little bit too much speed into the right-hander there. That compromised my line a little bit for the left-hander. Nonetheless, a 109.8 on the board. If you really wanted to be competing at the top today, you really needed like a mid 109. I could have done that, to be honest, but the final sector is my Achilles heel around this track. I am not great at all in the final sector. Matus took pole, then 109.666. Ian was in second and Lockdown was in third. I think I could have done a little bit of a better job. I was purple again at the end of the second sector, but to be fair, that final sector really is my Achilles heel. But I did make a few adjustments to the setup in qualifying that hopefully suited the rain conditions or the race conditions a bit better, because it is raining in the race and it will be raining throughout the entire race. Look at that. It's heavy rain predicted for, you know, the entirety of the race. So an interesting race coming up, that's for sure. We are on the grid and ready to go. Really thought I could have done a little bit of a better job there in quali. Maybe gain 1 or 2 tenths in the final sector, but we couldn't do it. Let's try to make up for that in the race. 5 red lights, they're off. And let's make sure we can keep it clean through these first couple of corners in these conditions. You come out of qualifying with a light car, and now the car is heavy and heavy rain conditions. It doesn't make it easy. Lockdown had a brilliant start, moves himself up into P2 already. We're on the outside of Ian, but Ian does get good enough traction to stay ahead of us for the moment. But so far so good. No front wings being lost here. We've got Gemsel, who is called Jesse in real life, Jesse. We've got him behind, so he is the championship leader. I still think at this point, one thing that I very close there to hitting Ian. One thing that I wanted to say, Gemsel I think is a little bit done with the game. Doesn't like the game as much as he did before, so I don't think he practices as much as he did before, and that perhaps does justice, or that explains his 5th place that he got in qualifying, because usually he would be up there. But this time it was a little bit further down. That can happen. Let's focus back on the race though. First lap of this game, trying to get a little bit of a feel for the conditions still. Didn't have any wet practice at all for this track, but that's alright. To be fair, I did practice a little bit more for this race compared to others, especially in the race conditions, because if you remember at Monaco, I did not do a single lap in the race at all in terms of practice. So definitely learned from that mistake and did a lot of practice. Well, a lot of practice. Did more practice than usual for this race. And let's see whether it pays off then. I'm not really a fan of driving in the wet conditions on this game. When I feel confident around the track, I usually just want it to be dry, and I was relatively confident around this track. Qualifying pace was alright-ish. Again, like I said before, could have done a better job in the quali, but in terms of race pace, I was quite happy actually with the pace in the race in the dry conditions. But like I said before, we won't see any more dry conditions in this video, as the rest of the race is being driven in heavy wet conditions, heavy rain conditions. Nailing the curve there quite nicely. I got a little bit of advice, and this is a shout out to Marco FD. I got a little bit of advice from him. I think he is a PC champion at Apex Online Racing, and he gave me a little bit of advice. When it is raining or in wet conditions, you should try to move your differential to 50%. So you can see at the bottom right of your screen, my differential is set to 50%. What that does is it locks the rear wheels. Like, if you have the rear wheels, you obviously have a right wheel and a left wheel, and the lower the differential value, the 50% is the lowest you can go. If you have that at 50%, the two wheels will basically rotate equally. If you have it at 100%, one wheel is going to turn faster than the other, and that can create a lot of oversteer, and it can also create a bit of a mistake here. Got a corner cut there, a warning, that's fair enough. What I wanted to say though, if you have it at 100%, the two wheels they rotate at different speeds sometimes. It can happen, or that can be nice to get round corners very fast, but in rain conditions, in terms of stability, 50% could be better. That's at least how I interpreted that advice that he gave. If I'm wrong, then please let me know. This is the second corner cut this lap. We need to be careful with that. And also another piece of advice he gave me is to have the brake bias set to 50%. You can't go any lower than that again, and the brake pressure a little bit, less than normal. So that's exactly what I did in qualifying, as obviously park for May is being applied. So from qualifying to race, you cannot adjust your setup again. The setup you use in qualifying will also be used in the race. So I made some small adjustments in the qualifying. I also increased the rear wing by 1 click, just to get some stability back again in these wet conditions. Alongside the lower differential value, hopefully helps me. But if that isn't the case, if it doesn't work like that, then please do let me know, because I'm still trying to learn a little bit in this game. Let's go back to the race though. Ian has overtaken Lockdown, so that means Lockdown is being moved down back again to P3. And we have got him ahead of us. In the meantime, look at the minimap. In the lead it is Matus, who is pulling away like you would expect from him. He has been a very strong force ever since he has entered this league, so not really a surprise to see him pulling away. Ian is also, by the way, a new name, and he's immediately driving in P2, so it is very promising. We've got a little bit of a, I wouldn't necessarily call it a train, but there isn't a lot of action going on in terms of overtaking. Everyone is just driving behind one another, and there is the first penalty. There's the first penalty of this race, lap 6 of the race. We have picked up a penalty. Very silly thing to do. To be honest, sometimes you can get a corner cut, but what caused me a lot of pain was actually the 2 corner cuts I gained in 1 lap. That was very unnecessary. That also meant that the corner cut we just did in the final chicane was a little bit too much, and the game rightfully penalized us for it. So lap 8 of the race. Coming into this chicane here, I brake a little bit too late, go deep into this turn, still able to make the corner, but there's a little bit of a touch from behind from Jesse. And actually I can tell you now that Gemsel has picked up front wing damage because of that. So he touched our rear wing and picked up damage from that. He came to me after the race and showed me the video, and I said, well, I'm sorry for you that happened, but in my opinion that was his fault. He had plenty of time to react to me going deep there, and he didn't do it. If you watch his video, he's still on the throttle like 1 or 2 meters before he's going to make contact with me. So I think it's up to him to then accept the consequences, and he has got to go into the pit lane to repair his front wing. That can happen sometimes. watching his video, he didn't really reply accordingly to the mistake that I made. And unfortunately for him, and I do feel sorry for him, because this is one of those moments that you don't want in a race. Unfortunately for him, he made contact with our rear end. It was quite light contact, but even that can cause a front wing damage, or a front wing end plate to be damaged. So had to go into the pit lane there. Lap 10 of the race, 1/7 is what we have completed so far in terms of race distance, and we are being pressured quite a bit by Flores behind, because Jamso has pitted. That released Flores, and he is right up on our gearbox and actually goes for a move on the inside of the chicane. I really thought he would overshoot the corner, but he didn't. So hats off to Flores for that move. A very, very good move. Wasn't really patient with making a move, but fair play to him, because that move was a good one. I don't know if I necessarily brake early for the hairpin, but nonetheless a very good move from Flores, and that means he moves himself up in 4th place. And we couldn't, at this stage, we couldn't really keep up with Lockdown. The difference was ever so slight, but Lockdown was usually 1, maybe 2 tenths faster per lap, and I couldn't really equal his speed if that makes any sense. But with Flores now being in front of us, I was hoping if I could stick with Flores, then perhaps Flores can somewhat drag us to Lockdown, and we can have a three-way fight for the final podium paying spot. And that's exactly what's happening a little bit here. Flores has in the meantime closed the gap to Lockdown quite a bit, and we are sticking with Flores quite well. So lap 18 of the race, then engineer comes up with a weird strategy call, which is a little bit weird in my opinion, because we're still being on the full wet, but I think the engineer wanted to switch to a 2-stop instead of a 1-stop. I'm not going to do that though. We're going to stick to plan A, which is a 1-stop. Ian Bastijn, by the way, you can see it on the minimap. He has gone from the full wet tire to the intermediate tire, and immediately when I saw that, I was like, I think that is the wrong call, because for the entire race heavy rain was predicted, so I don't really see a change of tire in terms of going from full wet to intermediate. Ian for some reason did see a reason to do that, went into the pit lane, and I can tell you already that the choice to go onto the medium tire is the wrong choice. And this again unfortunate for him, very unfortunate, because he had good pace, had every single right to be in 2nd place, and he simply threw away his 2nd place, I think, by making this call. But the race is still long, roughly 20 laps into this race now. But I won't complain. We gained the position from P5 to P4, and suddenly we are in a freeway fight, I should say, for P2 instead of P3. So up the gears then, once again the rear tires are taking a little bit of a beating around this track. It is a very harsh track for the rear tires. Lots of corners where you need a lot of traction, and in the rain conditions you usually go a little bit over the limit in terms of traction. You get a little bit of wheel spin, and that doesn't help the rear tires. They sometimes overheat a little bit, but to be fair, we are still scheduled for a 1-stop quite easily. If we can make it to roughly lap 33, lap 34, something thereabout, then we can easily make a 1-stop in this race work. And skipping to the start of lap 22, the fight for P2 is starting to intensify a little bit. We've got 3 cars now within 1 second of each other fighting here for P2. Good news is that the gap behind to Cas is actually increasing every single lap, so we don't really have to look behind. All we can do is focus on the front. Flores goes a little bit deep into this corner. We go for a little bit of a switchback on him, and we are side by side. Not a lot of room being left there inside here for the next turn. Flores has got the outside line that will become the inside line for the next corner, so he has got the advantage again now, and he swung it around the outside of us there quite nicely. So he keeps P3, but that was a sign to Flores there, saying, mate, if you do make a mistake, then I'm here to punish you. So good, fair racing, side by side racing, and Flores being able to keep the position very nicely. That did mean, however, that we lost some ground again to Lockdown. So I'm sure that Flores will be thinking, damn it, if you didn't attack me, I probably would have had a chance at overtaking Lockdown. But I try my best as well, of course, to gain positions. skipping now quite a bit later, start of lap 33. From lap 30 onwards, I was thinking, should I undercut, or should I not, you know? And I think I could have gone into the pit previous lap and go for the undercut and make it work. The latest I wanted to go into the pit lane was this lap, lap 33. But I was having too much doubts whether I should go into the pit lane in lap 32. With benefit of hindsight, I think I could have gone into the pit lane in lap 32, try to make the undercut work, but I didn't do that for some reason, and I thought, well, then in that case I'm gonna go into the pit lane in lap 33, and that means we will have 37 laps to go in the last stint of the race on the full wet tire, and then we will, you know, make that one stop work. So this is the lap where I was gonna pit regardless of what the cars in front of me were gonna do. We'll see whether they pit as well, and we'll see whether we can make an undercut work because of that. But we're halfway through this race, and I wasn't too negative about the pace. It's going quite well. We're battling here for second place. Of course, first place is well without, you know, well out of our reach. There we go. That was tricky. I'm sorry about that. But first place is well out of reach, and all we can do is fight for P2, and that's exactly what we are doing. So pit stop then. Quite a good pit stop, 2.6 seconds. Flores is actually being held, so we pass him in the pit lane, and it seems like he's being held quite long, so possibly he had to replace his front wing. That means we've got a little bit of a gap now to Flores, and now we can focus on trying to get lockdown. It was a little bit of a bummer, to be fair, that the two cars in front of me also went to the pit lane, because I wanted to make an undercut work, but I didn't want to really take the risk to go in lap 32, I think. I was a little bit too insecure about that move. So we made the stop in lap 33, but the two cars in front of us also had the same thought. At least we have moved ourselves up into P3 ahead of Flores, and we can focus on trying to get lockdown. So here we are then. Immediately I wanted to pressure lockdown in this race. I didn't really want him to have like a 2-second gap and play with that gap a little bit. I immediately wanted to be, you know, right on his gearbox, show him that, you know, that P2 is not gonna be easy for him and he needs to fight for it. If you can do that, then you pretty much set the tone for the rest of this final stint. And, you know, making no mistakes in these conditions for 35 laps long is quite tricky. So if lockdown makes a mistake, I have to punish him and I have to capitalize on it and make the move. But in lap 35 there is a back marker here who goes well out of the way, so fair play to Flying Dutch Roger there for getting out of the way. A little bit of a looker on the inside of the hairpin, just like Flores did with me, but lockdown firmly closes the door, and he had every right to do so. I came from very far back, a little bit of contact was made in that corner. Luckily no front wing end plate was lost, but I was like, let's at least give it a go. I came from very far back, of course. I still was able to make the corner. Unfortunately did make a little bit of contact with lockdown, so that looked a little bit ugly, but nonetheless got away with it. And again, I gave a little bit of a sign again to lockdown now as well, that he needs to fight for this position, and that is exactly what I wanted to put a lot of pressure on him. Maybe he'll make a mistake, and if he does make a mistake, we need to capitalize on it. But don't forget Flores, of course. He is 5.4 seconds behind us at the moment, and actually he is closing that gap. Remember, it was 5.4 before, as lockdown makes a little bit of a mistake here. 5.4 before, it is now 5.0 seconds as Gemsel does a fast lap of the race, 123.0. I did have the feeling that we were slightly being held up by lockdown. As you can see, we're right on his gearbox. Maybe I can go 1 or 2 tenths quicker at this stage, but you don't know about lockdown. Maybe he's saving fuel, maybe he's looking off the tires because he needs to do 67 laps, or sorry, not 67, 37 laps here at the end. So you don't know what he is doing. I definitely know that at the beginning of this race he had the pace on us, but I feel like I'm getting into a nice groove here, into a nice rhythm. And I'm getting stronger as the race progresses, and I really did get that feeling. And in lap 38 you can see it here again, being right up close to lockdown, but not able to make the move just yet. But I did get a little bit impatient because Flores is closing the gap quite rapidly behind us. So I was getting a little bit impatient. I was like, okay, if I want to make the move, or yeah, if I want to make the move, I need to do it quite soon. So I was able or willing to burn a little bit more fuel, push a little bit harder. As you can see there, we make a little bit of a mistake in the first corner of the second sector. So again, pushing hard, trying to do something and overtake lockdown. But then there's unfortunate news, because lap 38 of the race, we get in, we slam into the wall and lose a piece of our front wing. And I don't know if you noticed it, it looked quite ridiculous. If you, I'll show a replay soon, but my wheel was actually like stuck in position, and not physically stuck, like it wasn't stuck in my hands, but the game for some reason did not recognize my inputs anymore. Right here, there's is where the wheel got stuck for a moment in the game. Like again, it was not physically stuck, but for some reason the game stopped recognizing my inputs of the wheel. So I made the correction long before I hit the barrier, but the wheel in game was stuck in position. And oh, look at this, look that, or Flores again making move. It goes very deep, makes a little bit of contact, but fair enough to Flores. Again, he makes the same move on me in the hairpin. So I have been, you know, caught twice there now by him. Good move, to be fair, again from Flores. This time he went a little bit deep, made some contact, but I'm not gonna complain about that. I think that was a very fair move. But again, coming back to that situation, it has pretty much compromised ourselves now for the rest of the race. No front wing end plate anymore, lap 53 of the race. And of course you were slower than normal because of the front wing end plate missing, and I was quite gutted, to be honest, because I really had the feeling we could have been able to challenge there for P2 in the remainder of the race. And to have a moment like that, and again we pick up a penalty right here. By the way, I did not understand this penalty. It was lap 53 of the race, and I did not pick up a penalty or a warning even for a very long time, like a lot of laps consecutively. I did not pick up a single warning, and then I exceed the limit once in lap 33, and immediately I'm being punished with a penalty. I think the game could have given me a warning, because I didn't, again, not pick up a lot of warnings before lap 53. So I'll show it in the after the race again, in the race director. You'll see there is, you know, at the start of the race I picked up a penalty, quite a few warnings, but after that there was really a long time window in which I did not pick up penalties, and at this stage I was panicking. I was panicking a lot. Why? I was counting my penalties, you know. I was like, okay, we picked up a penalty at the start of this race, that is 3 seconds. I think we just got another one of 3 seconds, so that's 6 seconds already. I know that with the front wing end plate here being damaged, I was gonna lose a little bit of time. And the gap to Gemsel is 17.4 seconds. I was afraid that that gap was gonna come down. And if it comes down to 6 seconds, then it does mean that Jesse or Gemsel will finish in front of us. But again, coming back to that situation with the wheel, you know, I felt gutted because I really felt like we were doing quite well. It's very unfortunate, and the game did recognize the input for maybe half a second, maybe even less. But that was already enough, you know, to make those couple of, couple of inches that you drive. And from that moment onwards, even when you correct it, it's already too late, and you know, it's very unfortunate, but that's what happened. Lap 56 of the race, then the gap to Gemsel was 17.4 before. It is now 17.0, so he gained 4/10 in the middle sector there. And to be fair, I'm gonna do stupid things here. 5 second stop and go penalty. 5 seconds plus 3 seconds from before plus 3 seconds from the start of this race means we have now got 11 seconds worth of penalties. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys here, I am being incredibly stupid. Then lap 61 of the race, Flores disqualified. I did not know what I was seeing here. We are back into P3 because Flores was disqualified from the session, and then I was like myself, okay, I need to be careful with corner cuts, because perhaps if I cut too many corners myself, I'm also gonna get disqualified. I had no clue. But what I wanted to say, I am being incredibly stupid, and here is another penalty, 3 second penalty, and at this stage I was like, man, I have absolutely destroyed my chances here at getting third place Gemsel is now 13.6 seconds behind us. And I think at this stage I had penalties that were worth more than, you know, maybe 14 seconds. So at this stage Gemsel would finish ahead of us. That's what I was thinking. But like I said, I was being incredibly stupid here in two fields. The first field, maybe Gemsel also has picked up penalties over the course of this race. So, you know, if he has picked up penalties, why would I stress so much? Secondly, I stressed so much that my driving was rubbish. It wasn't rubbish in terms of lap times because it was relatively quick, but I took too much risk going into corners, and for that reason I picked up a lot of penalties. And at the time I was driving, I did not think about that. The only thing I was thinking, I was basically only looking at the gap to Gemsel, and that was really it. I did not do anything else. I was only looking at the gap, and if the gap wasn't big enough, I was like, okay, then or if the gap didn't increase, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go faster. But when I was going faster, I was more likely to cut corners, and that is so unnecessary, because I proved in the middle part of this race, where I did not pick up one single warning, I proved there that I can drive at relatively alright pace without getting any warnings. And then in the last 20 laps or so I completely panicked, and that caused you know, me to do some very silly things. And at this stage of the race the gap was 9.3 seconds, and I wasn't sure whether that was gonna be enough, you know, because I don't know what kind of penalties Gemsel has. I wasn't exactly sure whether that gap was gonna be enough. So, you know, we have to wait here to cross the line. One thing that I do think is, you know, the moment where we lost the front wing end plate, you know, that's really where the race went downhill. If that didn't happen, you know, then we probably would have done a bit better. But ifs never count in racing. Maybe we'll be lucky, maybe we'll get away with it, maybe we'll get P3, we'll see it as soon as Gemsel crosses the line. But I had a bad feeling about this, and at this stage I was like fingers crossed, and I was hoping that I would see my name above Gemsel's name. And as you can see on the top left of the screen there, it is indeed again above Gemsel's name. So I was very pleased to see that, and here you see it as well. It is confirmed that we are ahead of Gemsel. Now, here comes the funny point. In the end results, we are actually not ahead of Gemsel, because Gemsel protested one of his penalties, and actually he got one of his penalties removed. That means he in the end did finish ahead of us, and we have been demoted down into P4. And here you can see, by the way, there, you see that? That's a big gap where I don't receive any penalties at all. And then I have one cut in lap 53, and immediately, you know, there's a penalty. But anyway, no complaining really. I have to accept that. Lots of penalties in this race. That is something to be expected around this track. But I completely lost it in the final part of the race. And again, if the front wing end plate didn't come off, didn't fly off, you know, it wouldn't have happened. It is true, but nonetheless, I should have handled that situation a bit better, and then even then we still would have been able to get P3. In the end, the mistakes that I made in the last couple of laps were very unnecessary, and I think that they are the cause of losing the third place as well. Gemsel indeed protested his penalties and whatnot, but if I simply look at myself, then, you know, I should have stayed a lot more calm in the last couple of laps. And do damage limitation, and damage limitation would have been the P3 in that race, but I failed in that regard, and hopefully I'm able to learn from it, do a bit better next time. I was quite happy actually when you look at the race. The pace wasn't too bad, and it went quite alright actually, up until the point where we lost our front wing end plate. And again, like I said, from that moment onwards it's just damage limitation. A little bit of a shame, but you know, sometimes luck does need to be on your side a little bit as well, and so far I don't think it has always been on our side. But let's try to again do better next time. That's basically what I say at the end of every video, but it is the truth. Thanks all for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, I would sincerely appreciate a like. I've got nothing else more to say, so I'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves and goodbye.